Wicked mother-in-law met her match. The marriage that started it all. When Lydia married Daniel, she believed she had married not just a man, but into a loving family. Daniel was kind, hard-working, and deeply respectful. He worked as an electrical engineer in Lagos, while Lydia owned a small but growing fashion business. Their love story wasn't dramatic. It was simple, calm, and honest. They dated for 2 years before marriage. When Daniel proposed, he said softly, "Lydia, I may not be perfect, but I will always protect you." She believed him. The wedding was beautiful. Friends danced, relatives ate well, and prayers filled the air. But one person sat quietly with a forced smile, Daniel's mother, Mrs. Evelyn Brown. From the first day, her eyes held judgment. After the wedding, Lydia moved into Daniel's family house temporarily while they saved for their own apartment. Mrs. Brown insisted. "It's better you stay here first," she said sweetly. "I want to guide her." That guidance soon turned into control. On Lydia's first morning as a married woman, she woke up early to cook. But before she could finish, Mrs. Brown marched into the kitchen. "Is this how you cook for my son?" she snapped. "So watery. Did your mother ever teach you properly?" Lydia froze. "I'm sorry, Ma. I will fix it." From that day on, the insults never stopped. Daniel noticed, but his mother always cried innocence. "I only want what is best for my son," she would say, wiping fake tears. Daniel tried to believe her. That was Lydia's first mistake. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Lydia became a shadow of herself. Mrs. Brown never missed a chance to shame her. If Daniel praised Lydia's food, his mother would hiss, "She used too much oil. That's why you like it." If Lydia dressed well, she would mutter, "Who are you trying to impress with all this makeup?" Worst of all, she blamed Lydia for everything that went wrong in the house. If electricity went off, it's because this girl brought bad luck. If Daniel came home late, she's not satisfying him at home. Lydia cried at night when Daniel slept. She never reported everything. She didn't want to look like a troublemaker. One evening, Lydia overheard Mrs. Brown on the phone. "I will scatter this marriage myself. No girl will take my son from me," she said. Lydia's hands trembled. So it was true. One Saturday afternoon, Mrs. Brown accused Lydia of stealing money from her purse. "You thief! I know you took it!" she screamed. Lydia was shocked. "Ma, I didn't take anything." Mrs. Brown slapped her across the face. Daniel rushed in. "Mom, what are you doing?" "She is a thief," his mother shouted. Daniel turned to Lydia. "Did you take it?" Tears filled Lydia's eyes. "No, Daniel. I swear." Mrs. Brown dragged her box from the room and threw everything on the floor. She found the money inside her own Bible but kept quiet. Even after discovering the truth, she refused to apologize. That night, Daniel was confused. Lydia was hurt. And Mrs. Brown smiled quietly in her room. Before we continue, please subscribe to African Tales by Mira for more amazing stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story. A month later, Daniel's elder sister, Aunt Rebecca, returned from the UK unexpectedly. Rebecca was bold, wise, and observant. She noticed Lydia's sadness within 2 days. "Something is wrong in this house," she told Daniel. Daniel sighed. "Mom and Lydia don't understand each other." Rebecca looked at him sharply. "No. Your mother is bullying your wife." That evening, Mrs. Brown tried her usual weapon on Rebecca. "You've changed abroad. You allow your brother's wife to disrespect elders." Rebecca smiled coldly. "Mother, try that tone with me again and I'll expose everything you've been doing to Lydia." The house went silent. For the first time, Mrs. Brown met resistance. And she did not like it. Days after Rebecca's return, the house felt different. Mrs. Brown became quieter, but only on the surface. Inside, her hatred for Lydia grew hotter. She hated the way Rebecca supported Lydia and the way Daniel began to ask more questions. One evening, Rebecca met Lydia in the kitchen and gently touched her shoulder. "Talk to me," she said. "What has my mother been doing to you?" Lydia hesitated. "I don't want to scatter your family." Rebecca smiled sadly. "Lydia, it's already scattered. I just need the truth." Slowly, Lydia explained, the insults, the accusations, the slap, the money drama, the late-night curses she overheard. By the time she finished, Rebecca's hands were clenched. "So she called you bad luck?" Rebecca asked sharply. "Yes," Lydia whispered. "She said I brought darkness into this home." Rebecca sighed deeply. "Lydia, I am so sorry. You don't deserve this." Daniel walked in and caught the last part. "Doesn't deserve what?" he asked. Rebecca faced him. "You've been blind, Daniel. Your mother is destroying your marriage with her own hands." He frowned. "Rebecca, don't speak about Mom like that." "She's my mother," Rebecca replied calmly. "I know who she is. You're her son, but I'm her mirror. I see her clearly." Lydia stood in the middle, heart beating fast. For the first time, Daniel looked at his wife properly. Her eyes were tired, her smile forced, her shoulders slumped. "Lydia," he said quietly, "have I failed you?" Her lips trembled. "I just want peace, Daniel." Mrs. Brown listened from behind the corridor, her eyes narrowing. That night, she made a dangerous decision. If gentle manipulation wasn't working anymore, she would change strategy. The next week, Mrs. Brown paid a visit to a woman in the neighborhood known as Mama Tish, a gossip queen and drama manufacturer. "I need your help," Mrs. Brown said, sitting on the sofa. Mama Tish smiled. "If it's about spoiling someone's reputation, no problem. Talk to me." "It's about my daughter-in-law," Mrs. Brown began. "She wants to scatter my son's life. I must chase her out before she destroys him." "What do you want people to believe?" Mama Tish asked. Mrs. Brown leaned forward. "I want everyone to believe she's unfaithful. I want my son to doubt that any child she carries is his." Mama Tish gasped, then laughed. "Ah, you're not an easy woman at all." They planned. Rumors. Carefully dropped words in church. Fake stories about Lydia chatting suspiciously with men. At the same time, Mrs. Brown began acting nicer at home. She greeted Lydia warmly, asked about her business, even brought her tea. Lydia was confused. "Maybe she's changing," she told Rebecca one evening. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe she's planning." Lydia wanted to believe the best. She was tired of battle. One morning, Lydia woke up with nausea. She rushed to the bathroom and vomited. Daniel followed her. "Babe, are you okay?" "I don't know," she said weakly. He smiled. "Let's get a test. Maybe it's something good." A pregnancy test confirmed it. Lydia was 2 months pregnant. Tears filled Daniel's eyes. "I'm going to be a father." He lifted her up and spun her gently. They both hugged. From the passage, Mrs. Brown watched them, her face expressionless. Later that night, she smiled in the dark. "Perfect," she whispered. "This is my chance." News spread quickly. Lydia was pregnant. At church, everyone congratulated them. The pastor prayed for them. Women hugged her and smiled widely. But behind those smiles, some whispers had already started. "She's pregnant, but are we sure the child is Daniel's?" one woman murmured. "I heard she's always receiving calls late at night," another replied. "I heard she has a secret admirer who sends her money," someone added. None of it was true. But Mama Tish and Mrs. Brown had planted enough seeds. They just needed people to water them with their tongues. One Sunday after service, Mrs. Brown pulled Pastor Jude's wife aside and pretended to cry. "Mama, please help me talk to my daughter-in-law," she said weakly. "I don't want my son's name to be dragged in the mud." "What happened?" Pastor's wife asked, worried. I'm not sure this child is my son's, Mrs. Brown whispered. I've caught her chatting with different men, and she deletes the messages. I'm so ashamed. Pastor's wife's eyes widened. Are you serious? I have tried to cover her shame, but I can't anymore. I fear for my son, she continued. By the time Mrs. Brown finished, she had painted herself as a heartbroken, helpless mother. Pastor's wife decided to investigate. Back at home, Daniel noticed a change. Some of his colleagues at work stopped teasing him in a happy way about fatherhood. Instead, they made strange jokes. Hope the child looks like you, one said. What type of nonsense joke is that? Daniel snapped. The colleague shrugged. Ask your street people, not me. That evening, Daniel asked his mother directly, Mom, have you been saying anything outside? Mrs. Brown placed her hand dramatically on her chest. Me? I've been praying for you, my son. But people talk. They said they see Lydia with men sometimes when you're not home. Daniel frowned. Which men? I don't know, my son. I try to defend her, but the rumors won't stop. Once again, she dropped a poison and wrapped it in fake innocence. This time, it began to work. Rebecca traveled for a week for a business conference. That week, Mrs. Brown decided to strike. One afternoon, when Daniel was at work, she sneaked into Lydia and Daniel's room and took Lydia's phone. She quickly saved an unknown number as Baby Red Heart and sent several fake romantic messages from another phone she had borrowed. Baby, I miss you. When will your husband be at work again? Last time was sweet. I can't wait to hold you again. She arranged it carefully, then kept Lydia's phone back where it was. In the evening, when Daniel got home, she pretended to be uncomfortable. Daniel, I don't like what I saw today, she said. What, Mom? I wanted to call Lydia, but she was in the bathroom, so I tried to use her phone. I saw some things. She handed him the phone, already open to the chat. Daniel scrolled. His heart pounded as he read the messages. He felt like the ground was shaking. Lydia came out of the kitchen, smiling. Welcome, honey. Should I warm your food? Daniel's face was hard. Who is this? He asked, raising the phone. She blinked. Who is who? This number saved as Baby Red Hearts. Who is he? Lydia came closer, confused. She took the phone. Her eyes widened. What is this? I don't know this number. Oh, you don't know? Mrs. Brown shouted. So the messages typed themselves? Lydia shook her head frantically. Daniel, I swear, I don't know anything about this. Daniel was breathing fast, anger and confusion mixing. So someone else used your phone to chat with a lover? He asked coldly. Lydia's lips trembled. I don't know how this got here. I didn't write this. I don't cheat on you. I love you. Mrs. Brown laughed bitterly. Women of nowadays. They will shout, I love you, with their mouth and still open their legs outside. Mom, enough. Daniel barked. But his eyes were still fixed on Lydia with pain. That night, he slept on the couch. Lydia lay on the bed, holding her small baby bump, crying silently. She didn't know that her fight was no longer just inside the house. The whole community was about to be involved. Rebecca returned the next weekend. The first thing she noticed was the tension. Why is everyone acting like the Wi-Fi went off permanently? She joked, trying to lighten the mood. No one laughed. Lydia avoided her eyes. Daniel was quiet. Mrs. Brown moved around with the boldness of a woman who thought she had finally won. That evening, Rebecca went to Lydia's room. What happened? She asked softly. Lydia broke down. She told her everything, showed her the messages, and repeated her innocence. Rebecca listened, her face expressionless. Then she asked one question. Did you lock your room when you left today? Lydia sniffed. No. I just went to buy things down the street. Mama was home. Rebecca's eyes hardened. Good. That's all I need to know. She asked for Lydia's phone and checked details carefully. Then she smiled. "Lydia, do you know that sometimes even lies leave footprints?" she said. She went to the sitting room, where Daniel and Mrs. Brown were. "Daniel," she said calmly, "unlock your phone." He frowned. "Why?" "Because if we don't handle this now, this marriage will die," she replied. Something in her voice made him obey. She took his phone and Lydia's phone and placed them on the table. "Now, let's reason like adults," she said. "Whoever owns this number will tell us the truth today." She dialed the suspicious baby red heart number from Lydia's phone and put it on speaker. A phone began to ring. Not outside. Not in another house. Inside. The sound was coming from Mrs. Brown's room. Slowly, everyone turned. Mrs. Brown jumped up. "It's not what you think." Daniel stood. His eyes were burning. He walked into her room and found the small phone under her pillow. He came back holding it like poison. "Mom," he whispered, "what is this?" She stammered. I was only trying to test her. I wanted to know if she really loves you." Rebecca shook her head. "By destroying her name? By calling your daughter-in-law a prostitute?" she asked sharply. Lydia just sat there, tears running down her face. The truth had finally walked in. But the damage was not done healing. It was only beginning to expose itself. After that discovery, Daniel moved out of his mother's house with Lydia. "I can't stay here anymore," he said. "This house is killing us." They rented a small 2-bedroom apartment, simple but peaceful. Mrs. Brown was furious. "So you chose her over me?" she shouted when he came to take their things. "I'm not choosing anyone," Daniel replied. "I'm choosing peace." "You are under her charm," she screamed. "You will come back to beg me." Rebecca stepped in. "Mother, you need to rest. You almost destroyed your own son. You should be asking for forgiveness." Mrs. Brown turned on her daughter. "You too? After I carried you in my womb." Rebecca sighed. "You carried us, yes. But motherhood is more than pregnancy. It's character." Weeks passed. Daniel and Lydia began to rebuild their lives. Lydia's health improved, and her pregnancy grew. One Sunday, their pastor announced a family forum program in church, where different families would share lessons and experiences about marriage, in-laws, and conflict. To everyone's shock, one of the invited speakers was Mrs. Evelyn Brown. She had gone ahead of them to package herself as a strong Christian mother who suffered in silence from a bad daughter-in-law. On the day of the program, the hall was full. Mrs. Brown took the microphone and started crying dramatically. "I raised my son alone," she said. "And then he married a woman who disrespects me. She doesn't greet me well, she tried to snatch my son from me, she even." Lydia sat at the back, shivering. Daniel was stiff beside her. Rebecca sat between them, unusually calm. Then Mrs. Brown said the one thing that broke everything open. "She even cheated on my son while pregnant. I caught her messages myself." The crowd gasped. Pastor Jude looked shocked. Mama Daniel, is this true?" Rebecca raised her hand. "Pastor, please, can we speak too?" she asked. The pastor nodded. "Of course. You are also part of the family." Rebecca took the microphone and spoke gently but firmly. "Church, I respect my mother. But today, I must choose truth over blood." She narrated everything: the Bible money drama, the constant insults, the framed messages, the phone number that was traced to Mrs. Brown's room. Then she did something bold. "Pastor, with your permission, I have both phones here," she said. "We can call the number now and let everyone see who owns it." Pastor Jude nodded slowly. "Please do." Rebecca dialed the number. Once again, the same embarrassing ringtone played. From Mrs. Brown's bag. Right there on the altar. The church was silent. All eyes turned to her. Her hands shook. She tried to speak. "There is an explanation." Pastor raised his hand. "Mama, please sit." For the first time in a long time, Mrs. Brown had no words. That day, her reputation as Holy Mother was shattered. She had used the church to spread lies. Now, truth used the same platform to disgrace her. After the service, people avoided Mrs. Brown. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, "How can a mother do this to her own son's wife? She nearly destroyed a marriage." Pastor Jude called all of them into his office: Daniel, Lydia, Rebecca, and Mrs. Brown. He sat quietly for a while before speaking. "Mama," he said softly, "why?" Tears finally came from a real place this time. "I was afraid," she whispered. "I struggled alone to raise Daniel. His father abandoned us. I suffered. He was my only joy. When he married, I felt like someone was stealing him away. I didn't know how to handle it." She covered her face. "So you tried to keep him by destroying his wife?" Pastor asked gently. "That is not protection. That is control." She nodded slowly, sobbing. Daniel's eyes were red. "Mom, I love you," he said quietly. "But what you did to Lydia, I will never forget the pain. You made me doubt her. You made me almost hate her." Lydia looked at Mrs. Brown. "I never wanted to take your son from you," she said. "I only wanted a place in this family. Just love. Just acceptance. That's all." The room was heavy with emotions. Rebecca spoke last. "Mother, you didn't just meet your match in me or Lydia," she said. "You met your match in truth. Truth will always win." Pastor Jude nodded. "Forgiveness is possible," he said. "But it must start with confession and change." Mrs. Brown swallowed. "Lydia, I am sorry. I was wicked. I let my fear turn to hatred." Lydia's eyes filled with tears. "I forgive you, Mama, but I need time to heal." Pastor agreed. "That is fair. Forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. It only opens the door for healing." That day, something broke in Mrs. Brown, not just her pride, but also the chains of her insecurity. Even though apologies had been exchanged, trust was not instantly restored. Daniel and Lydia agreed on one thing: they needed boundaries. Daniel sat with his mother a week later. "Mom," he said gently, "I won't cut you out of my life. But things won't be like before." She looked at him fearfully. "What does that mean?" "It means you cannot just walk into our home anytime and control everything," he explained. "You can visit, you can call, you can be part of our lives. But you cannot make decisions for us. You cannot talk to my wife anyhow." Tears filled her eyes. "So this is my punishment?" "This is not punishment," Daniel replied. "This is protection, for my family, and also for you. So you don't cross lines again." She nodded slowly. Rebecca also spoke to her privately. "Mother, get a life outside your children," she said. "Serve in church. Join a women's group. Start something that is yours. Stop trying to live through Daniel." Those words hurt, but they were true. Lydia, on her part, decided to protect her peace. She stopped trying to impress Mrs. Brown. She remained respectful but no longer desperate for approval. She spent more time on her business, took online courses, and prepared herself emotionally for motherhood. For the first time in a long time, she could breathe. Her baby bump grew. Her smile slowly returned. The wicked mother-in-law had technically met her match. But the real victory was that everyone was also meeting their true selves. Months passed, and the day finally came. Lydia went into labor very early in the morning. Daniel rushed her to a modern hospital in town. The contractions were intense. She squeezed Daniel's hand. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "I'm right here," he replied, kissing her forehead. Outside, in the waiting room, Mrs. Brown and Rebecca sat side by side. Mrs. Brown was restless. Her heart was full of regret and fear. "What if something happens to them?" she asked. "Pray, Mother," Rebecca said. "This is your chance to be their covering, not their enemy. They prayed. For the first time, Mrs. Brown prayed genuinely for Lydia. "God, please keep her safe," she whispered. "She is carrying my grandchild. She has suffered enough because of me. Please, give her life." Hours later, a nurse came out smiling. "Congratulations! It's a baby boy." Everyone jumped up. Daniel came out with tears in his eyes. "She did it," he said. "Mother, Lydia did it. She was so strong. You need to see your grandson." When Mrs. Brown walked into the ward and saw Lydia holding the baby, her heart melted. The baby's tiny fingers. His innocent face. The way he held on to life without knowing any of the drama that had surrounded his existence. Lydia looked up, tired but smiling. "Meet your grandson, Ma," she said softly. Mrs. Brown burst into tears. She knelt beside Lydia's hospital bed. "Please," she whispered, "forgive me again. I was blind. I almost destroyed this beauty. Thank you for not giving up." Lydia touched her shoulder weakly. "We all make mistakes. Let's move forward." Mrs. Brown kissed the baby's forehead. "Welcome, little one," she said. "I promise to be better. You will not meet the wicked version of me, only the healed one." A year later, their lives looked very different. Lydia's fashion business grew online. She opened a small showroom and started making maternity-friendly designs that helped women feel beautiful after childbirth. Daniel got promoted at work. Their son, Eli, became the joy of the family. Mrs. Brown transformed slowly. She joined a women's fellowship at church, where they discussed emotional healing, family patterns, and forgiveness. She even openly shared her story at one meeting. "I was a wicked mother-in-law," she told them. "Jealous, controlling, and insecure. If not for my daughter, my son, my daughter-in-law, and God's mercy, I would have broken a home." Some women in the group cried, recognizing themselves in her story. She became known not as the wicked mother-in-law, but as the mother who changed. One Sunday, Pastor Jude invited her and Lydia to share a short testimony. They stood side by side. They stood side by side. "I used to see Lydia as a stranger who came to steal my son," Mrs. Brown said. "Now I see her as a daughter that God added to me." Lydia smiled and added, "And I used to think I needed to earn her love by suffering. Now I know that real family is built with truth, forgiveness, and boundaries." The congregation clapped. Rebecca sat in the front row, smiling proudly. After service, she hugged both of them. "You two are proof that when wickedness meets truth, love can still win," she said. Years later, when people told the story, they always said, "Mrs. Evelyn Brown met her match in her daughter-in-law." But that was only half the truth. She did not just meet her match in Lydia's quiet strength. She met her match in Rebecca's courage to confront family patterns, Daniel's decision to finally protect his wife, the truth that exposed lies in front of everyone, the grace of God, which turned disgrace into testimony. One evening, as they all sat together, Daniel, Lydia, Eli, Rebecca, and Mrs. Brown, the older woman smiled softly. "Lydia," she said, "do you know the meaning of your name?" Lydia smiled. "Yes, Ma. It means beauty or noble one." Mrs. Brown nodded. "You brought beauty to my son's life. I almost chased it away." Lydia looked at her with gentle eyes. "And you brought a different kind of strength to us," she said. "A painful one at first, but now a refined one." They laughed. Eli ran around the living room with a toy car, shouting, "Grandma! Mommy! Auntie!" The house that was once full of accusations was now full of laughter. The woman who once used her tongue like a weapon now used it to bless. And the girl who once cried in the dark now sat in the light, surrounded by love. That was the real ending. Not just that a wicked mother-in-law met her match, but that in 2025, in a noisy city full of broken homes and silent battles, one family decided that truth, boundaries, and forgiveness would have the final say. And they won.